الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And to begin with, especially since September is around the corner, school will be starting, and I've chosen this topic in the importance of seeking knowledge, and in both sides, seeking Islamic knowledge and seeking secular knowledge in terms of what schools teach you. So this can be derived benefit from all generations, because no matter what your age you are, there's still things that we don't know. And anything we want in this world, there's some form of knowledge behind it. If we want to learn how to drive a car, you have to take lessons. If you want to learn how to fix something, you have to learn. You have to look at either the manual or learn how to do things in that area. For example, if it's electrical work, you take electrical courses, or you can even look on YouTube videos on how to fix things these days. So going on to this, we go back to the hadith I mentioned, which is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says: طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم, that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. That no matter what, every single Muslim should seek knowledge. And these things, for example, Islamic knowledge will help you become better in terms of how you are as a Muslim. By learning the etiquettes of Islam, by learning how to be a good Muslim, you can earn more rewards. By learning the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you can do things more properly and earn more reward. By learning the fiqh on how to do wudu, on how to stay clean, on what things are haram upon you or what things make you impure, you're able to avoid little mistakes that can lead to your salah being invalid, your recitation of Quran not counting, or you reading Quran in an impure state. And when we learn things, we should take it in properly, we should comprehend it. And before we even start learning anything, we should rectify our intentions, that we are not doing this so that we can attain a title, or once we're finished we can be like that we're the most clever person on earth. Oh, I know everything, you don't know anything. And a big example of this is when you see the story of Adam alayhi salam. When Allah mentions in Surah Baqarah, He says to the angels that I intend to create a human being. And the angels say that, indeed, are you going to create something that is just going to cause bloodshed and chaos? And Allah replies with, I know more than you do. And He goes on to create Adam alayhi salam, and He teaches Adam alayhi salam the names of certain things. And then He brings the angels back and He tells them, name these things for me. And the angels are unable to name them, and they say, قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. That glory be to you, Allah, that there is no knowledge that we have except what you have taught us. And this is a sign of how we should reply as well, that we should always understand that there is a limit to our knowledge. And then He goes on, Allah starts telling Adam alayhi salam to inform him of these names. And Adam alayhi salam names them, because that's what Allah taught him. And then He tells them all to bow down to Adam alayhi salam, and all of them bowed down except Iblis. And Iblis did it out of jealousy, that I am better than him. You created me from fire, created him from clay. That I'm a superior creation. And in terms of how we should act around people, there's another lesson to be learned from this, is that we shouldn't show pride. Which is what I was starting off with. When we make intention to learn something or to seek knowledge, we shouldn't have the intention that at the end of this, I'm going to get a title, and that title makes me better than certain people, or this title makes me better than everyone else. Remain humble and understand that there are limits to everything a human does. And Rasulullah ﷺ has emphasized to us how much of an importance we should give to seeking knowledge. And this is shown in that hadith that I mentioned again at the start. طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. That is an obligation, that is necessary. Everyone should learn it. And we should feel motivated to learn about Islam as well, because this is our religion, something that the Prophet ﷺ, he spent 23 years passing down to the Sahaba, and it wasn't, and he also spread the word around the world. He didn't just tell them, oh, the Quran, read this. He didn't just say sayings. It was in his mannerisms, how he would act. The Sahaba would look at him and see, okay, this is how we should be. They used to follow his every footsteps. One incident mentions when two Sahaba were traveling, that one of them, he went and sat down on a rock while they were traveling, and then he got back up and carried on walking. The other Sahaba asked him, why'd you do that for? And he said that, I remember once we were traveling with the Prophet ﷺ here, and the Prophet ﷺ went towards that rock and he did istinja there. So obviously the Sahaba didn't need to do istinja, but out of following what the Prophet ﷺ did, he went and sat on that rock. And this is an indication of how the Prophet ﷺ passed on his knowledge. And we should feel motivated even more, because Rasulullah tells us again that مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ, that whosoever Allah wants good for, He wants them to become a better Muslim. He'll give them the understanding of knowledge. He'll make them understand His religion. And this shouldn't be something that, okay, I don't understand something, I can't learn, I'm struggling with learning, so that means Allah doesn't want me to succeed. No, because if you say to someone that if you work hard at this, you'll earn such and such money at the end of it, no matter how much trouble that person goes through, they're going to keep on working until they get that money, because that's something that's fulfilling their desires. The same way, you have to actually go out of your way and try your best to attain this knowledge. Look at books, go to scholars, speak to people of knowledge, that I don't understand this, help me, or I have a question about this. We should never feel shy from asking questions, because without asking these questions, you might have a doubt in your head, and then because of this doubt, you go on and start doing the wrong thing in this scenario, and it might cause you to commit a sin without even knowing. And a lot of people, they try to find a loophole where, if I don't find out whether this thing is haram or not, there's a doubt, I won't do it. I'll just keep on doing it because I don't know any better. But that's similar to what the Bani Israel used to do. They used to avoid asking questions of things that they considered doubtful, because they wanted to continue fulfilling their desires. And in terms of how we should ask people with respect. Don't go up to someone and start pressuring them or interrogating them, because they might not even answer you in the end. And carrying on, I mentioned at the start that both sides are important, both secular education and Islamic education. Islamic education is important, especially for the younger generations as they're growing up, that teach your children, teach those around you in your family to do things in an Islamic way, or raise them in a way that they don't do any haram, so that when they're older, they might open up an Islamic book and then they'll see that, oh, my parents used to make me do this when I was younger. Now I understand why. If you get your children into the habit of praying their 5 daily prayers, when they're older, even if they're out with their friends, they will have in the back of their mind, is it salah time yet? And to pray. And these things build up into making people better Muslims. It's like if you put a child in a football academy. He goes there for one reason, to keep on training and training, and then he becomes a better footballer. The same way, as when they're younger, if you drill into them Islam and what they should be doing, when they get older, it will just make them better. But we shouldn't do it in a way that it makes them hate Islam at the end. We shouldn't be shouting at them, beating them, or telling them that, oh, why aren't you doing this? Make it fun for them. Make it something that they want to do. Make them enjoy it. And in terms of secular education, like math, science, English, that is also another importance that we should give, especially in this country. Because with these qualifications, you can move forward in things you want to do. And no matter what your age is, even if you're extremely old, if you can get better at even one of these subjects, you can appeal to majority of this country. For example, if someone didn't take English lessons, they didn't know how to do their pronunciation of words properly, they didn't know when to use certain words, how to make sense of sentences, how would they be able to speak to someone who's an English speaker and explain to them Islam? Or explain to them something? In general, like in this country I mentioned English, but in other countries their national language should be of great importance. With maths, we have scholars, Islamic scholars, who were greatly involved in math. One Islamic scholar, Muhammad bin Musa, he created algebra, which is what our children are learning in GCSE maths, even in A-level maths as well. And with these both sides, they come hand in hand. That you'll see through when you're learning sciences that are such and such element, or such and such physical motion or physics that it takes for one object to move or for something to happen. And then if you use your imagination or even just your brain power and you think about it carefully, that all of these factors are being put in for an object to move even a little bit. They need the weight, something to push against it, and so on. And you think about how Allah is making everything revolve. He makes the earth turn, He makes the sun, He makes the earth orbit the sun. And you just think about how amazing that is. And science is telling you that nothing happens without a cause. Yet, you have people saying that the earth was just created by chance, that everything was perfect by chance. And when you, going back to the English point, where you talk about the language, when it comes to teaching Islamic studies, how else would you be able to convey it or give it to the younger ones and explain it to them? And we should take this point of how important both sides are, encourage our children to be better in school. Not just school, but also encourage them to be better in their Islamic studies. It should go hand in hand. And we shouldn't force them too much. We shouldn't make it to the point where we're making them hate it. We should make it enjoyable for our children. And when with knowledge with knowledge, it's an important aspect that we need to attain knowledge to get to a certain point, get to a goal. The same way you need to work or eat so that you can survive the rest of the day. You need to learn things and implement it so that at the end of it, you are able to say that, okay, I understand how to do this. I understand what is important in this aspect. For example, to be an engineer, you don't just one day just pull up and say, oh, I could do this, let me have a go. You study. You go through all the aspects of engineering. You learn about how to do it. You might even do some hands-on work. And then you become an engineer. You don't just become it straight away. You have to put the work in. So likewise, with not just with secular education, with Islamic education, that think when you study Islamic education that, okay, I'm not just watching a YouTube video, because sometimes you might be watching a video of someone who doesn't understand what they're saying. Anyone can make a YouTube channel these days. But when you watch a YouTube video, if it causes questions in your mind, go back to the source material, try and look at the books, or even go to your local masjid or to someone who you know is knowledgeable in this field, someone who understands Islam. Ask them about it. You don't just become a scholar. These people have studied for so many years to become scholars. If you look at the stories of different scholars, you'll see they've spent decades just perfecting one thing. You hear the stories of how scholars used to travel thousands of miles for one hadith. These scholars put in the work so that it makes it easier for us. All we have to do now is just open a book and read it. If we don't understand something, ask someone who does, which is lucky for us. And even in terms of the actions of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sunnah, we weren't alive to see it. The Sahaba though, they maintained it in their memory. Then they passed it on to the Tabi'in, then to the Tabi'in, and then on and on and on, until they reached a point where someone remembered the entire chain, who they narrated it from, who that person narrated it from, all the way to back to the Prophet ﷺ, and they wrote it down. Imagine if they didn't write it down. How many generations would we have to think back to just to reach the Prophet ﷺ before understanding that this was a strong chain and this is what the hadith was? But these scholars did it all for us. They wrote it all down. You open Sahih Bukhari, you'll see 3-4 lines of just the narrators sometimes. And then there was some with Imam Bukhari where it was only 2-3 people in between him and the Prophet ﷺ. So for him to remember all these hadith, thousands and thousands and thousands of hadith from memory, along with the people who narrated them, I don't think any of us could do that. If you can, mashallah. But he went and then wrote it down. And thanks to him writing it down, we are able to open Sahih Bukhari and see that, okay, this is the hadith about this topic. If we want to know about this, it's under here, in this chapter. In this hadith, we can see this. And it's all on a plate for us. So we should have no excuse that we want to focus on one side of knowledge, which is the secular side of what they're teaching in schools. It's all there for you in easy format. So you can put your focus on both sides. That, okay, I'm going to focus on my school studies. I'm going to help my children focus on their school studies. But also I'll buy them Islamic books, or I'll see if there's a masjid nearby where they can learn. And that way they get both sides. They're getting to learn their school studies properly, and they're also learning Islamic studies. And inshallah, if they work hard at it and they fix their character along with learning these hadith or learning these this education, Islamic education, Allah will make them understand it. Going back to that hadith again, مَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ, that whosoever Allah wants goodness for, He gives them understanding of the religion. That they, through their hard work, they might understand all the stuff they're doing in their lessons straight away. It might take them a while. But either way, Allah will make them understand it if He wants goodness for them. And we should hope that Allah wants goodness for all of us. Which is why, no matter how hard you think it is, no matter how much you can't understand something, don't just stop and think, I'll just listen to whatever someone else says. I'll just open a YouTube video. Carry on trying to learn it. Carry on trying to understand it. Because when your children are growing up and they're younger, they're not going to understand going to the masjid or asking an imam about this. They're going to ask you about what happens if I do this? How do I do wudu? They're going to ask you first and foremost because they're most comfortable with you. So we should be able to understand these things ourselves properly. And summarizing today's points, that knowledge is of great importance to Muslims, no matter what side of knowledge it is, secular education or Islamic education. And taking care, we should take care not to think that just because we understand something better than another person, we're not better than that person. They might know something that we don't know. And a perfect example of this, I'll just give a quick story about Musa alayhi salam and Khidr. In Surah Kahf, the story is mentioned where, so before the actual ayats of Surah Kahf, there's a bit of tafsir where the people asked Musa alayhi salam, who is the most knowledgeable person? And Musa alayhi salam replied with, me, Ana. So he did not give a wrong answer there, because no matter what the time period, the Prophet that is alive at that time is the most knowledgeable. But Allah wanted to teach him something. So Allah told him that I know someone who is more knowledgeable than you, and you will meet him at such and such place. And I'll keep the story brief. Once they arrived at this place, they met with this man, and Musa alayhi salam asked him, can I accompany you on your travel? And this man said, you can, but you might not understand some of the stuff I do, and you won't stay patient. Musa alayhi salam said that, let me follow you, don't worry, inshallah you'll find me patient. So they went first to a ship. And when they were on the ship, Khidr began damaging the ship. And Musa alayhi salam said, what are you doing? These people are being kind enough to help us, and you're damaging their ship. And Khidr responded with, didn't I tell you that you won't be able to be patient with me? And Musa alayhi salam said, forgive me. It was just a one-off. Give me another chance. So then they went on with their journey. And then they came across a group of children that were playing. And Khidr went up to one of the boys and he killed him. And Musa alayhi salam said that, why are you killing an innocent child? And Khidr said again, didn't I tell you that you won't be able to be patient with me? And Musa alayhi salam said, okay, give me one more chance. And then they arrived at a village, and when they arrived at this village, the people weren't very nice to them. They were rude to them. They were telling them, get out. And while they were walking away from the village, Khidr saw a wall that was going to break, and he fixed the wall. And Musa responded with, did you fix this wall in hopes of gaining some reward from these people? And Khidr replied with, that's it, that was your last chance. But before we separate, I will explain to you why I did these three things. And the first thing, when he damaged the boat, it was because there was a king who was stealing or who was taking all the good boats. And this family was poor and they made their income from this boat. So Khidr damaged the boat so that the king would leave it alone. And then they could fix it by themselves and carry on working on this boat. And the second thing, the boy. Khidr killed the boy because he was going to grow up and become a cause of corruption for his family. And he was going to cause his parents lots of trouble. So he killed him with the intention that his Lord will give them a new son who will be more pious and dutiful to his parents. And the third thing was when he fixed the wall. The reason he fixed the wall was because underneath that wall was treasure that a father who had 2 orphans that he left behind when he passed away, he put that treasure under the wall so that when his children could grow up and become stronger, they could take that for themselves. So the main reason for this story that I mentioned now is going back to when I was saying that we should understand that not everyone knows everything. There will be people that know things you don't. So we shouldn't start bragging over other people. Musa alayhi salam, a prophet, obviously he was the most knowledgeable of his time, yet he didn't understand the wisdom behind these things, because this is what Allah was trying to teach him. And through this we also learn that we shouldn't show pride. We shouldn't think that because I understand one thing, because I'm a doctor of this or a professor of this, that I'm better than a general layman. We should understand that no matter what, Allah has given us this knowledge, and Allah can also give the knowledge to someone else. And we should be grateful to Allah and remain humble. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the ability to continue attaining knowledge. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the ability to remain humble, no matter what our condition is. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to act upon what has been said. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.